Parmi l'hebdo aujourd'hui donc publie sa liste annuelle de 100 personnalités qui font la Suisse romande. Cette année, c'est celles qui feront la Suisse romande. C'est tous des jeunes, des représentants de la relève. On va en inviter 6 sur scène dans quelques minutes. Mais avant, je vais vous présenter une jeune politicienne née en Suisse, au Tessin, où elle a fait toute sa scolarité. Mais elle est aussi porteuse d'un passeport italien et ça l'a amenée à être élue l'année passée, elle avait 29 ans, au Parlement européen. Elle va s'exprimer en anglais. Elly Schlein, welcome to the forum. Welcome. How are things? Elly, you're quite a unique case as a member of the European Parliament. You have a Swiss passport. Tell us how you went from Lugano to being elected to the European Parliament.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a long story, Bruno. My roots are in Ticino, as you said. I was born in Lugano in 1985, and I grew up there, of course. I left Lugano when I was 20 to go to Bologna to study. I was really active at university in a students' association, so my political passion has a long story behind. Basically, we were trying, together with a bunch of friends, to raise awareness on two very difficult subjects in Italy. One is migration, that was mentioned before, and the other one is the conditions, the jail conditions. Afterwards, in 2008 and in 2012, I went to Chicago to campaign as a volunteer for Obama. And that was an amazing experience, in a way. What I tried to do later on, when I came back to Italy, of course, was trying to in a way, put in practice what I have learned in Chicago. There was a whole new way to do political campaigns, of course, in terms of the use of social medias, the use of big data. So that was kind of my idea. And then, in 2013, we had elections, of course, and I was campaigning for the Partito Democratico. And we didn't win, or at least we didn't win enough. And then, about, 2 months, 2 very difficult months passed, and in the end, there was the decision to form a government led by Enrico Letta, of course, together with Berlusconi. And I'm a little bit embarrassed, but I've talked to Enrico yesterday. He knows. So I was kind of guiding the protests together with many, many young people against that idea. It was nothing personal, Enrico knows. It was a problem that we felt like, in a way, it wasn't the good way to give to the country the answer the country needed, together with, of course, what we considered part of the problem of the country. But at the time, we were trying to, of course, also saying that in the Partito Democratico we felt like we were not heard enough as, the base, the so-called base of the Partito Democratico.
The government was formed anyway, and it was a large coalition,
yes,
of course, to stabilize the situation. But that
so we lost that battle,
exactly.
Of course. But afterwards, we had primary elections. Mm-hmm. And as you might have noticed, Matteo Renzi won the primary election. I was campaigning together with Pippo Civati, which was one of the other 2 candidates, and I was kind of coordinating part of his campaign. After that campaign, some friends, many friends, with whom I've shared that fantastic experience of 2 years of very tough political battles, they asked me to be a candidate. And I said, you're completely crazy. Just forget about it, because I have no money. And it's about preferential votes. So it's very difficult with a very huge constituency from Rimini to Trieste. So it was very large. And plus, I had this very impossible name to write for Italian people, Schlein. So it was totally a crazy idea. And at last, I accepted, and I said, okay, but let's do this our way, with a collective campaign, trying to remember what I've learned in Chicago. Yeah. The main idea was, let's ask to people to contribute with what they can. Ideas, money, a ride, a place to sleep at night, because we had no money for hotels or something. And it worked, actually.
Yeah.
The message was pretty clear, and what we did is trying to do this slow food campaign that was walking in symbolic places like where the earthquake was in Modena, in Emilia-Romagna, trying to say that because the crisis was mentioned by Enrico as well, in my country, Italy, there is a problem of trust towards politics and towards parties. So my message was, let's walk together with people and listen to them and to their problems and develop common solutions, and it worked.
The reason why I want you to tell this story is because there are several people like you, young people like you in the European Parliament, and they all come from countries that are, most of them come from countries that are somehow in difficulty, but they especially come from parties that have been in transition, like the PD in Italy, or that are new, like Podemos in Spain, for example, and others. So do you feel that in an institution like the European Parliament, the young generation, people like you, can really influence the process?
Well, we're not that many, but we're working on it. Yes, I hope so. We have to find a way to influence the process. It's very difficult. You have, when you get to Brussels, you have to understand how things go. It's a very complicated dynamics in the parliament, but we stick together with other young people, also from other groups. So my hope is that our generation is going to be able to talk better between each other. Also in my country, we need that too, of course, and try to build together a solution. We are doing this job in times very different from the past, if you think about it. Think about emails, Facebook and Twitter, how deeply they have changed the relations between the representative and the people they are supposed to represent. That is a much stronger relation, a more direct relation, and it changed a lot. So I think that we have to do something as young generation to reduce that distance between institution and citizen. I think that's the first real important task. And then, of course, here we face a problem that was mentioned before. We are going through a terrible crisis right now, and it has a huge impact on youth unemployment, of course. So I think that we have to be able to find out a creative way to get out of the crisis. I think that in the last years, the economic and social policies of the European Union were a failure. I mean, the youth unemployment is going worse than before. I think that they kind of applied recession over an already started recession. So we have to rethink that kind of policies. And doing what? I think that we have to be very ambitious here. We have to rethink our model of economic development. And the word that is going to be, my word for 2015 is sustainability. I think that we have to be very clear about the fact that we can't go back at business as usual, as the growth model that was before. We have to develop a new model, investing in what we have left behind with the crisis. Research, culture. I live in a country where we were told for many years that with culture you don't eat. But in the meantime, we ate our culture, and we see the beauties like Pompeii and L'Aquila suffering so much. Innovation, green economy, for example, that is creating very high-quality jobs across all Europe. So we have to invest in that direction, and that's a task for, of course, young people that have fantasy to do that, I think.
Let me bring you back to Switzerland. We have only a few minutes left, but what's your analysis of the situation of Switzerland vis-à-vis the European Union today? Given that you sit on both sides, you're bringing in Lugano.
It's a conflict of interest. Well, it's a very hard question. It's a very hard relationship.
Let's try the short answer.
Odietamo, yes, a very short answer. It's a very difficult relationship. I hope it's going to get better. Of course, the vote of the 9th of February last year has complicated things. We all know that. I don't think that, in a way, I talked to many Swiss friends, and they say, oh, but Europe is taking its revenge on the vote. I don't think so. It's much more complicated. It's about guillotine clauses in the treaties. It's about the fact that the European Union can't accept to just put aside the freedom of movement and not consider it together, because it's one of the 4 pillars, of course, the fundamental pillars of the European Union. So it's going to be very, very hard. I I think that we have to rethink the whole relationship between EU, because many times we have voted in Switzerland for the bilateral agreements, and of course the vote was positive. So we have to probably have a broader vision of the relationship and try to build something up together.
I think some here may be wondering, you represent Italy in the parliament, but you are also a bit Swiss. Do you feel yourself a bit Swiss? Do you kind of bring the Swiss point of view into the discussions there?
Well, I was elected by Italian people, so I should represent Italian people, of course, but I can't cancel who I am. I was born in Switzerland. I come back every month to visit my nieces and my family still in Lugano, and my friends, of course. I love Rivella. I do all the Swiss things, so it's, I mean, I have this background. But let me say a very last thing, because I know we're running out of time. Because you were also inviting me because I am young. Yeah. Let me say, because I was very impressed by of course, what Guillaume said and also what Enrico Letta said before. The real task of my generation, I'm very ambitious in that, together with many other young people here, I hope. Europe today is not what the fathers and the founding fathers and mothers had in mind and had dreamed of. They already said that. What is lacking here? I think that it's something got stuck in between, but we are the first generation who got the luck to grow up as European, and that's also for Swiss young people, for example, because if you think about the fact that you can travel a whole continent without passports.
Let me stop this sentence mid-sentence. If we come back to this, because I want to show you one slide. We did this survey with our partners at MES20. You can see it there. And it basically shows that the young Swiss, it shows a massive rejection among the young Swiss of the idea of joining the European Union. So turn your point around, and what do you tell to the young Swiss people?
Well, I'm not surprised. You know, we're in a very bad situation. I was telling you before. Today, Europe is facing this kind of, the project of integration is stuck in between. We are desperately trying to see Europe walk on one leg only. Can you walk on one leg only? You can't. So I think the task of our generation is building that rest of integration that is lacking today. On migration policies, on foreign policies, on fiscal policies, the European governments, after the crisis, have become so selfish. If we don't get together and we don't understand how interconnected is the world of today, and that we have to face it as a European Union to be stronger, well, I don't think it's gonna work. So I think the task of our generation, because we are born and grew up as European, we have not to take for granted what we have, of course, conquered until now, but we have to build up the next leg, so the second leg. And at that point, I hope we're going to make this project be what it was meant to be from the start.
Elly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grazie. Prego.